For this extension, we are going to look at the area of composite shapes, okay? So, as we are looking at these problems, we need to break it down into shapes we can find the area of, like rectangles, parallelograms, trapezoids, triangles. So looking at this first one, to me, I see I can split this right here, which means I need to find the base and height of that triangle and the base and height of the rectangle. As I'm looking at that, so let's start with our rectangle. I can see that this base is 18. When I'm looking at the height, this 18 is talking about the entire length. We only want this portion, so I'm going to look at the other side, and that tells me that that height is 12. So for my rectangle, I'm going to do a base of 18 times a height of 12, which is 216. Now we're going to do the same thing with the triangle. But what we have to remember is this length, there's nothing for us. And if we look at the opposite side, 18 is the entire length across. So if 18 is the entire length and this part is 4, 18 minus 4 leaves us with 14 for that length right there. Same thing for the height. 18 isn't just this portion, that's the whole length. So we have to remember, this was 12. So 18 minus this part of 12 leaves us with 6 for the height of the triangle. So now we can plug in to our triangle formula, our base of 14 times the height of 6 divided by 2. So I'm doing 14 times 6 is 84, dividing that by 2, and I get 42. Now, for our total area, I'm just adding the 216 plus the 42 to get a total area of 258 centimeters squared. Okay, let's do the same thing for shape number 2. Couple ways that we could do it. I could kind of divide it this way and I'd have a rectangle on top and a trapezoid on the bottom, or I can divide it this way, have a rectangle on the left, trapezoid on the right. Both ways work. I'm going to divide this one vertically. So I'm going to be looking for the base and height of my rectangle as well as my trapezoid. I need my 2 parallel sides as my bases and the perpendicular height. So looking at the rectangle, my base here is 8, my height is 10. So for the rectangle, we're just doing 8 times 10, which is 80. Now for our trapezoid, okay, I need my 2 bases. I have this one base here of 7. On this side, it's not 7. It's the same as this rectangle, which if that side length is 10, this side length is 10. And then the height, 12 is talking about the entire length. So we need to take away this part. If the bottom is 8, that means this top is 8. So 12 minus 8 leaves us with 4 left over for that height. So for that trapezoid, we are going to do base 1, which is 10, plus base 2 of 7, times that perpendicular height of 4, divided by 2. So calculating, 10 plus 7 is 17, so 17 times 4 divided by 2, or 68 divided by 2 is 34. So then for our total area, we are taking the 80 from the rectangle plus the 34 from the trapezoid to get a total area of 114 centimeters squared. Oops, I was off the paper for that. 80 plus 34 is 114 centimeters squared. Okay, number 3. Couple ways you could do it. I could divide it right here and do a rectangle, triangle, triangle. That's 3 things that I need to find. Instead, what I could do is kind of turn this into a big rectangle where I'm finding the base and height of that big rectangle. And then I'm going to take away this triangle, which has a base here and a height here. So for our rectangle, I don't see a base length here, so I look on the opposite side. I see that that is 22. So a base of 22 times this height of 11. When I multiply that, 22 times 11, I get 242. Then for our triangle, I don't see a base length here, but that's the right side of the rectangle, so I look on the opposite side, which is 11, so that tells me that that base length is 11 with a height of 5. So for our triangle, we're doing our base of 11 times that height of 5 divided by 2. So that equals 55 divided by 2, which is 27.5. Then for our total area, we're going to be taking the big rectangle. We're going to be taking that big rectangle and subtracting this small one, 27.5. Do it by hand or plug it into the calculator, and you get 214.5 yards squared. So we are taking away that triangle. We don't want that included in the shaded area. Okay, number 4. I see two shapes. It's kind of divided for us already with that dotted line. So we need to find the area of our rectangle base and height. And then our circle. And remember, for area of circle, it's that area equals pi r squared. So we're doing the radius, not the diameter. So for my rectangle, I don't see a base length right here, but I look across, that length is 12. So we're doing a base of 12 times the height of 5, which is 60. Now for our circle, as we said, it's pi r squared. So we know it's 3.14 times our radius. Well, we don't have a measure right here, but we know that the entire length on the other side is 5, which means that our radius is half of that, or 2.5. So we're doing 3.14 times our radius of 2.5 squared. So I'm plugging that into my calculator. So I get 19.625. Here's the thing though, that would be the area of a full circle. When we look at this, I don't have a complete circle, I have a half circle. So I'm going to take that 19.625 and I'm going to divide it by 2 to cut that in half. And we get 9.8125, or maybe I round that to about 9.8. So for our total area, we are adding the rectangle, which was 60, plus that half circle, which was 9.8. And we get 69.8 inches squared. Okay, last one, number 5. Okay, this one, dividing it, if I divide it right here, we have a triangle where we can find the base and height, as well as our circle, which again, we just need the radius. So let's look at this one. For the triangle, this part right here is not listed for us, right? But if that's the radius is the same no matter where you go on the shape. From the center to the edge, every single part is the radius. So if this distance across is 4.6, that means this radius is also 4.6. Now here's where it gets tricky again. For this height here is talking about the whole length of 13.4. We need to take away this portion because we only want it from right here. Well, if I start from this point here and go down, that's also a radius, so that's also going to be a distance of 4.6. So if I take that 13.4 and I take away that radius of 4.6, we get 8.8. So now we can find the area of our triangle. I'm doing my base of 4.6 times my height of 8.8 divided by 2. So 4.6 times 8.8 is 40.48. Divide that by 2, and we get 20.24. Or if you wanted to round, 20.2. Now, for our circle, we have pi times our radius, which we know is 4.6 squared. So pi of 3.14 times our radius of 4.6 squared, we get 66.424, or about 66.4424, or about 66.4. But just like the last one, we don't have a full circle, we only have half of a circle. So I'm going to take that full circle and I'm going to divide it by 2 to cut that in half. And we get 33.2. So for our complete area, we are taking that 33.2 of the circle, the half circle, plus the 20.24 or the 20.2 for our triangle, and we get a total of 53.44, or if it was rounded, 53.4 yards squared.